transfer portal. Now, these two things just kind of go hand in hand. Um, and obviously the transfer portal isn't going anywhere. That's so we might as well just understand that we're not going to be able to do that. So the question is here: how would you change it or make it better? And I was informed before that we started. Corey's got some ideas. So Corey, I'm going to kick it to you,
Oh
man.
no.
Fix the transfer portal.
Fix the transfer portal. Leave it up to me. Yeah, that's a good commissioner. Delegate.
That's right.
Anyway, I don't like the two transfer window thing. I do understand there needs to be a grace period at the end of the season for certain schools, but you got schools going into like now in the 12-team playoff all the way into January. I just don't think they should be able to handle the signing day into late December plus transfer portal plus preparing for the playoffs. I think it just gets a little ridiculous. One transfer window from April 15th to May 15th after spring or whenever your spring game is till May 15th. Then schools will have to just act accordingly to how they schedule their games. That way they know where they stand after spring. That eliminates impulsive moves in December. It reduces tampering during bowl season, things like that. And I mean, I think it makes it just extremely hard on coaches going late into the season. And I have to applaud Ryan Day. I cannot believe the culture he has built to where he's not. I'm sure he's having to deal with it, but he's dealing with it like a champ. Number two, yes, this rule technically exists already, but it's the waivers are soft and inconsistent. Get the sit out rule for second transfers. Um, there needs to be a sit out rule that's stricter. No more my roommate looked at me weird, and I'm transferring. It just encourages more commitments, stops portal hopping. Every time the playing time drops a little bit, just make it stricter for second time or second transfers. Cap on transfer class. People talk about salary cap. Cap on transfer class size, like 10 incoming transfers or something like that. Whatever it is. Some schools are doing 20 and 22 and whatever. It's ridiculous. You're completely altering your roster every year through the transfer portal, and it actually encourages players from smaller schools to just jump ship. Or backups on bigger schools to jump ship. Uh, Stop with the roster flipping. Intra-conference transfer penalties. It was removed in 2021, as I recall correctly. Um, Sit out a year for intra-conference transfers, unless both schools just waive it. But the only problem with that is schools don't want to look bad publicly, so they just go ahead and waive it anyway. Uh, NCAA tampering enforcement arm. Again, this all goes back to somebody has to enforce the rules. I don't know if the NCAA has the teeth to do it or a new commission has to do it, whatever has to do. Almost like Rothstein in 1919 baseball, they got to get a commissioner, to do something here. Um, Dedicated NCAA compliance for the portal and tampering cases, things like that. Freeze the eligibility clock while you're in the portal. It's still, I mean, right now it still counts against eligibility. Pause the 5-year clock while uncommitted up to 30 days max. The NIL deal transparency, it goes back into NILs, but light disclosure, things like that. There's right now there's no transparency or tracking. I think it would actually affect the portal if we were more transparent on what NIL deals were taking place right now. And like the Nico situation, we still don't know for sure what had happened. I don't even know if each program knows for sure what had happened. Um, Transfer orientation program, 2-day workshop before portal entry, so you understand academics, mental health, the NIL deals, depth chart realities, things like that. Because these 18 to 22-year-old kids making extremely important decisions on the fly, sometimes based on emotion. Exit interviews, it's spotty enforcement right now. Make it mandatory. Document before compliance and file the portal paperwork before the compliance can file the portal paperwork. Also, my last one is, let's say, collective accountability measures. There's no regulatory body, as I say. They don't penalize schools with NFL collectives caught tampering. They don't no loss of lots of scholarships, no NIL spending limits. We're not even subtle about it anymore. So because we've made it so legal, it's just like I said. If it's not going to be the wild wild, if we don't want the wild wild west, we have to have a third body enforcing the rules.
I
That was a
swear he
lot
got into my notes, Eric.
That was a lot to take in there. So here's what I need you to do, Corey. You need to do a video on just your
All right.
all break that down. Holy smokes, that's a lot. Listen, I think there was a lot in there that I really, really liked, and I think the chat we're getting a consensus that your first one is very popular. one transfer portal window after spring ball's over. And that's it. I think that's a good one. Skeeter, what's your thoughts on this, man? How would you go about fixing the portal? Oh, did we just lose him? We just lost him. All right, we'll go to you next, Chris.
All right. So
What's your ideas?
what's my idea is to keep Corey out of my notes. Because let me tell you, number one I had was set clear transfer windows. Now I'm okay with two, but here's the problem. I don't like the timing of them. I think you have one immediately after the championship game, have it open up for 15 days, and then you do a 15-day post everybody's spring game. That cuts down on the chaos, helps the coaches manage rosters, gives the I have no idea what that noise is. But anyhow, you set the transfer window. Two was standardized eligibility rules, which was restriction of transfers. Number three rather, cap the portal class. I had it capped at 10. Require NIL transparency as my number 4, and number 5 was enforce tracking or enforce the tampering rules. So he and I were on the same page, man. Exactly the same page. Corey, you and I just need to take this thing over. We got this.
We got it. We got it. Everybody, hold on. Hold the phone, everybody. Chris and I got this.
To me, the portal is as simple as just making it shorter, and there's one window, and it's right after spring ball. To me, that now a lot of what you guys brought up, I think, is really good as well. But to me, that's the biggest one, and that's the easy one. That's the low hanging fruit here that they can fix like right now. Skeeter, what would you do to change the transfer portal, buddy?
Uh, you're not allowed to transfer. Like you have to be at a university for 2 years. Uh, I would say you have to give that school a genuine shot. You can't just go 1 year, not see the playing field, and you jump ship. And that if you're not allowed to transfer, but once every 2 years, well, that's probably going to be most everybody's collegiate career. You might get a graduate senior or redshirt senior be able to transfer twice, but uh, the cap on transfers, I don't know if that will work. It it's all so hard and complicated because it has become just complete chaos, and that's what we're used to now. So it's hard to try to pull it all back in and say this is the right answer because we've gone so far from what the norm is. And so I don't really know like if a cap would work. The one window in the spring is definitely needs to be happening. The window in December is stupid. You have teams preparing for bowl games, you have playoffs getting prepared for, you have high school recruiting wrapping up, and they're trying to sign their team, and now they got to say, "Oh, I can't sign you because so and so is coming back now." Or, so the December window needs to do away with. But I mean, other than that, I would say you have to be at a school for at least 2 years before you could transfer. That would stop this every year. We have kids that are on their fifth and sixth school now, and that's just mind-boggling to think about.
I agree 100% for you. I think what has happened is you're actually doing a disservice to these kids by allowing them to jump in the portal every time you turn around. The one exception I could give to that is if they go to that school when their coach leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
going to say
that's
the same thing, Eric. There has to be a grace period
Yeah.
for coaching changes. Yeah.
and it's one of the biggest issues I think people have with this is it's like, well, a coach can leave whenever he wants and he can go get more money whenever he wants. That was the whole excuse for Nico, right? Like, what's he doing different than any other coach is doing? And so I understand that argument, but at the same time, you're comparing apples to oranges. You're comparing coaches. There's only 130 some of them as far as head coaching jobs in college football, and then you have how many Division One players are there? I mean, a lot. Okay, there's a lot more than that. We're talking over what is it? Over 10,000, or I believe it is.
Well, what,
So
105 guys over
over
130
131
programs?
teams. So yeah, you do the math. It's like
That
over
that's why I don't know that the cap would work because that wouldn't be fair to a new incoming coach. He takes over a program and 30 players left the portal after the last coach left or got fired, however that works, you know. So you're really hang handcuffing the incoming coach if you throw a transfer portal cap up.
That's a fair point. What if you had a waiver for incoming coaches whose teams just left? Like Marshall would be a great example for the new coach, right? Because the whole
Well,
team friggin'
look
left.
at what
West
Indiana did.
Virginia didn't West Virginia just have a bunch lose or leave the other day too?
Possibly.
I don't know, but look at what Indiana did last year with Coach Sig. I mean, he went pretty much brought like 10 or 11 guys from his roster from James Madison, and then
Group of
they
five all
brought
stars.
in a group of 5 all-stars and ended up, keeping basically he just cut half of the Indiana roster that he didn't like essentially. Um it's interesting. Did you all see what Dion did after the conclusion of their spring game on
Nope.
his interview with ESPN? Literally, this is what Deion Sanders said. If you're in the portal, you know how to get a hold of me. What?
Yeah.
What in the world? Like, how did? Like, wait a second. What if you're currently on Colorado's roster? And I mean, to me, it's that is somebody who's living on the portal, man, completely living on it, as opposed to using it the way that a lot of the best programs are doing it and supplementing their roster with a few players here and there to try to fill
Well, we
holes
could
or
say
needs.
Colorado has a different circumstance than say an Ohio State or Georgia or whatever. That they have to try to get these players through the portal more so than how they. I mean, can they really recruit out of high school extremely well? I mean, even when Coach Prime is there, is Colorado the name when you got all these big major colleges coming at you? I mean, they're getting these guys who are probably a little lower tier in the recruiting class. They probably have an opportunity to go get some really high star backups to say, hey, you come Colorado, you can play. So I could see why, but again, I'd still like to cap it because it's. I mean, to a point. I mean, I do agree with Skeeter. I think he made an excellent point. I just say make a waiver for new coaches that need to rebuild the roster real quick. But the I don't know. I mean, I just don't think even with I don't they're certainly not getting crazy money for NIL to get to get new recruits and things like that. I think they have to use the portal a little too much.
I would push back on it with this too. If you have less guys available to be picked up out of the portal, you're going to have less guys enter the portal because the
True,
fact is there's going to be no place for them to land.
true. Two things. Number one, this is a little bit off topic, but I want to mention it anyways. I think the early signing period is. I don't like it. They either need to move it up to like the beginning of like the end of July or something
Yeah,
like that, as opposed to what is it, January, like December?
December.
Like, it makes no sense when it is right
I'd
then.
say go back to the February thing.
I personally, I'm with you,
I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Corey. I want to go back to like NCAA 1998, baby. That's what
hmm
that's where I'm
Where
living.
signing day in February was like you ain't getting nothing
Oh,
done. It's at work that day.
these kids have no idea how exciting that day was.
Oh, jeez, it was ridiculous. It was
It
so
was
much fun.
it was the NFL draft and Survivor all mixed into one. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean it was
Where's
crazy.
Von Bell gonna go? Yeah,
I do have a question on that. So when the signing day was in February, I'm old enough to remember, but I don't remember all the fine details. Could kids still enroll early in that spring semester out of high school?
Yeah.
No,
they could. I think there was a few that started to.
was there?
Yeah, in January. I can't remember
Because
Yeah,
who
that's
it
a
but
big
was.
that's a
but
big thing for
wasn't
Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou. I think we have 10 freshmen on campus already
Yeah,
in next year's
what
class.
Ohio State's got over half their
Corey?
class on already.
Corey, correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, but
Hmm.
wasn't it they could come onto campus early? However, they could not participate in team activities
Yeah, they
early.
weren't participating in team activities. I don't think, but I mean, like Jeff Okuda. I remember everybody was searching his name as well before February, and they were searching his name on campus already in January. I remember that very vividly. People were constantly searching the database at Ohio State because we didn't know for sure if he was sticking with Ohio State or not at the time.
Last
I do
comment
have
on.
one more fix, Eric. One
Sure,
more
go for
fix
it.
real quick.
Yeah,
'Cause you said something about the Indiana coach, or
Coach Sig. Yeah.
one of y'all said something about the Indiana coach and kicking out half the team, and then Dion saying, "You know where to find me." So what about the players on the roster? Unless it's something off the field issues, A coach cannot force a player into the portal. You went and recruited them, you signed them, you brought them there.
It
So
it happens everywhere.
You,
I know,
you
but
don't have to force them
if
in the
you're
portal.
looking
It's
at
let
a
'em know.
if you're looking at a way to fix, I think that would be a big thing that would
Well, the,
Well,
the
help too.
guidelines would have to be pretty strict on that. I do agree with
yeah.
the premise of it because it's
Well,
like,
but if it's a contract, then that player's got a contract.
Correct.
And then, yeah, so that would help fix that a little bit too. Let me get to my last thing on the transfer portal before we take our commercial break and we come back and we do our mock draft game. I had a nephew who he's very, very good at football. Just had a spring game yesterday, doing very well at the University of Indianapolis, which is a Division II school. He was being recruited by Akron, and flat out, coach said to him, that one of the reasons why they were not going to offer him at the time was because they needed to wait to see how many players went into the portal who were going to slip through the cracks to them. That's one of the unfortunate outcomes of what is going on now that no one's talking about. Is a lot of these players who are fringe, a group of 5 players, are now going Division II. And by the way, Division II football, if anybody's been paying attention, is getting really good because of
Football.
this. It is getting really, really good. Same with Division I AA or whatever we're calling it now. Whatever it is now. I'm still old school.
FCS.
Yeah, FCS. It's good football now.